Hello, good morning to all conference participants. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hamka Halkam, and the other authors of this study are Mr. Aymal Basar de Malino, Mr. M. Saleh S. Ali, and Mr. Sultan Suhab. I will present our study about the analysis of Indonesian edible birds nest export to China and Hong Kong in 2017-2021. The outline of this presentation are: first, the introduction; second, the objectives; third, the methods; fourth, the result and discussion; and last, the conclusion. Let's start for the introduction. Edible bird nest produced from the saliva of swiftlet. It consumed as food and medicine by humans. It is an expensive animal food and traded as a high-value commodity. Edible bird's nest from Indonesia is produced by white nest swiftlet. Chinese community is in the main market for the products, especially in China, Taiwan, Singapore, and North America. So far, edible bird nests consumed only by the Chinese, so it is estimated that more than 90% of world edible bird nest production is consumed by the Chinese. For a century, they believed that and knew that it has many benefits for human health, and the scientific research already proved it. Indonesia is a major producer of edible bird nests. About 80% of the swiftlet population located in Indonesia. Indonesia's production capacity of edible bird nests is around 2,000 tons annually. So that is why Indonesia is able to supply 80% of the world's edible birds nest demand. From 2017 to 2021, Indonesia's edible bird nest export has increased significantly in terms of volume and value. In 2017, Indonesia edible bird nest export volume was 1,094 tons. It was worth $280. And in 2021, Indonesia's edible bird nest export volume was 1,510 tons and worth $517 million. So there is an increase 70% in terms of export volume, and there is a significant increase 84% in terms of export value in the last 5 years. Indonesia has already exported edible bird nests to 21 destination countries in the world. Among them, there are 11 countries become export destination country for Indonesia in every year. Year 2019 was a turning point year for Indonesia edible bird nest export destination for countries by volume. China and Hong Kong become main destination countries. In that year, 61% of the total volume of Indonesia's export was shipped to these countries, which in the previous years was only 28%. In 2020, Indonesia export to this country reached 88% and 81% in 2021. The objective of this study is to analyze the dynamics of Indonesia's edible bird nest export to China and Hong Kong during 2017 until 2021. Since these two countries are the main destination of Indonesian edible bird nest export, and there are differences in the dynamics of Indonesia's edible bird nest export activities to these two countries. This research, using secondary data that obtained from journals, research reports, mass media, and from various resources that related to the study. Mostly volume and value of export and import data is obtained from International Trade Center and Badan Pusat Statistik Indonesia. The data was analyzed by summarizing and presenting it, looking at the trends and comparing them, and then making a conclusion. Let's talk about the result and discussion. From 2017 to 2021, Indonesia edible birdnest export to China was increasing. In terms of volume, it increased by 313% or increased 50% annually during this period. In terms of value, it increased by 241% or increased 42% annually. China's edible birdnest import volume increased significantly by 353% in 2021 and compared to 2017, or increased by 53% annually during the period. For the last 3 years, Indonesia became the largest contributor to China import, which contributes 62% during this period. In terms of value, Indonesia's contribution to China's edible birdnest import was increased by 274%, or it increased 42% annually. Indonesia became the largest contributor to China import that amount 69% in the last 5 years. For the last 5 years, Indonesia's edible birdnest export volume to Hong Kong was increased by 105%, or 34% annually. However, in terms of value, it was decreased by 29% or 6% annually during the period. In terms of volume, Hong Kong edible birdnest import was increased by 170% or 50% annually in the last 5 years. Indonesia is still the largest contributor for the Hong Kong import, which averaged 85% annually. In terms of value, Hong Kong edible birdnest import was decreased by 41% or decreased 7% annually in the last 5 years. Indonesia is still the larger contributor, which contribute 56% annually in this period. Comparing the volume and value of Indonesia's edible birdnest export to China and Hong Kong. From 2017 to 2021, China and Hong Kong was the largest contributor for Indonesia's edible birdnest export in terms of volume and value. During the period, Hong Kong was the largest contributor by volume and China by value. This was due to price disparity between these countries. Comparing the contribution of edible birdnest import from Indonesia to the total imports of edible nests in China and Hong Kong. Indonesia was also the largest contributor for edible birdnest imported by China and Hong Kong in 2017 until 2021. During this period, China's increasing import volume was in line with its import value. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's increasing import volume was not followed by increasing in import value. Although Indonesia's contribution in terms of volume to Hong Kong's total edible birdnest import was increased, but in terms of value it was decreased. It indicates that Hong Kong purchased Indonesia's edible birdnest at a lower price than China. Indonesia and China should build good relations and mutual understanding for the interests of both countries in regard to edible birdnest trading. China should open its market wider for Indonesia, and Indonesia must improve the quality of its edible birdnest products so as to meet China's standard of quality. So we come up with the conclusion. Hong Kong is the Indonesia's largest export destination by volume. However, China is the largest contributor by value. The export volume of Indonesia's edible birdnest to China and Hong Kong was increased, but decreased in terms of value to Hong Kong. Indonesia's contribution to the needs of Hong Kong and China's edible bird nest remains dominant. Indonesia's contribution to the total volume and value of China's edible bird nest import has increased. As for Hong Kong, increase in import volume but decrease in import value. Indonesia must increase the volume of its edible bird nest export to China. Cooperation between Indonesia and China in the edible bird nest trade must be improved for the benefits of the two countries. Further research is suggested to study the demand and dynamics of the domestic market for edible bird nests in Hong Kong. I apologize for the interruption and annoying background during this presentation, and thank you for your kind attention.